Hi, this is Guy Schwartz, and you're watching Hippies TV.
You can call my name. You can think of me. I won't run. I won't hide. I want to be there for you.
I first heard that harmonica instrumental by Little Sonny, a Detroit harmonica player, and I think he had the Barcays backing him up. And he just had a funky groove. His whole record was real funky urban blues, and playing a fantastic harmonica. But he always did the two-hole shake, you know. And that's one of the first things that I took to when I first started playing harmonica, was getting that two-hole shake. And so
that guitar, y'all.
so I had Holland K come in from Dallas, so it was a true Texas festival, because that's a monster, you know, a guy from Fort Worth coming down here playing that swing and jump blues, and you look at the footage and you can tell, you know, that he more or less took house all night and worked his ass off. Started producing harmonica events kind of modeled after Eddie Stout's Texas Harmonica Rumbles that he did. He also made records and compilations of the performances and such. And I was part of one that he did in the early 90s where it had Big Al Blake from the Hollywood Fats Band, Hash Brown, Willie Foster, who played harmonica with Muddy Waters, Memo Gonzalez from Dallas, and John Moscone from Houston and Dallas, and top drawer Paul Orta and Walter Higgs, but it was a huge deal, and Eddie Stout hired me to go to Austin to play it at Antone's, and I was just mesmerized by the talent, and the education and stuff, and so it was quite a wake-up, around 91, 92, I think I'd been playing with Joe Hughes, but I realized how much it inspires you to, and opens you up to new things, because you're around new players from different parts of the country and different parts of the world, and they have a completely different perspective than you, so you begin to draw that into your, your musicianship, and so I always like putting them together, because I got to know, I also network and I get to know people. So I'd also, I got to know Gary Primage and Collard Greens and Gravy from Australia, and a lot of really superb players. Walter Higgs from Austin, I guess he's from Port Arthur, and Paul Orta.
Everybody knows that these are called diatonic harmonicas. Does anybody understand what that means? Diatonic means a key. So harmonicas are broken down into individual keys. If you have a C harmonica, it plays all the notes in the C scale. So if you're going to play the blues, the way you play a blues riff, no matter what key it is, you pretty much always play it the same. So you see that major scale, y'all want to give that a shot and just try to play that. It's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Then it goes backwards. So give that a shot and try to play that. You know what it's supposed to sound like.
Very good. What key do you have? You got a C? Play on the 4 blow. Let me see that harmonica.
This one.
That's an A.
Oh, maybe I got it mixed up.
Yeah. You only 3 of those. Yeah. Teaching part, I've been teaching as a sideline for 25 years. And I teach kids, I teach adults, I teach corporate retreats, like at House of Blues. They'll buy a bunch of harmonicas, and I teach them all how to play harmonica. I teach at churches, I teach at private schools. I had a whole year residency at a private school here all year. I go in and lecture at universities and public schools and things like that. So it's kind of become, and if you look around in the business, it's kind of a cottage industry of its own, teaching people how to play harmonica. There's a lot of people putting out books and literature and customizing amps and customizing harmonicas, largely because the internet, connects everybody, and selling vintage mics. So it's its whole own cottage industry.
Y'all, when the spirit moves you, just stand right up here. What we're going to do is get y'all up there for 12 bars or 2 choruses maybe, and we're just going to take turns, okay? And we're going to do a little up-tempo, kind of a Chicago-style shuffle. And everybody's welcome. We're in the key of G, so you need a C harmonica. All right? So we're not going to throw you too many curveballs here. I'd like to remind you one more time, Houston Blues Society, and they help sponsor this and help push this and promote this for us. So we have a lot to be grateful for with the Houston Blues Society. Let's give them a round of applause, y'all.
And then one day you founded the Houston Blues Society. What was that all about? How did that hit you?
Okay, I'll tell you everything I know. Okay, and I won't hold any secrets. In the early '80s, I roomed with Uncle John Turner. He basically helped me break into the music scene, and he always had this dream of starting a blues society. Okay, and I also played with Jerry Lightfoot for quite a while, and Jerry Lightfoot was a loose form of blues society, I guess you could say, because when I played with him, that's where I got to know Teddy Reynolds and Andy Too Hard Williams and Grady Gaines and just Jimmy T99 Nelson, people like that back in the very early 80s. And so I got to really know some real heavy hitters, Albert Collins and Elroy King, who was a blues singer, was also worked as Albert Collins' valet and Johnny Copeland valet. Really good. B.B. King style. Also introduced the band, getting a nice tux. But he's a childhood friend of all these guys. Elroy King kind of factors in there. My relationship with Joe Guitar Hughes, I had 2 stints with Lightfoot in the 80s. Got a lot done, you know. And then I worked with Kenny Hebert the first part of the 90s. And then I joined Joe Guitar Hughes' band. And at the time, Joe was pretty hot on the scene. And he hired me to be his sideman. I was with him for 4 years. I really just got this huge, deep dish, sophisticated blues, urban blues education, playing with Joe. So and I just got out of college for radio, television, communications, so I knew all this PR jargon and PR lingo and how to do press releases and how to promote and publicize in a very methodical, professional manner. I pretty much had a pretty good handle on how the media and such worked. So I decided I wanted to start a blues society, and it was with the blessings of. There was also, there was other people that talked about doing a blues society. Big Roger Collins, the Blues Broad. All these people around town had been wanting to do this for a long time. So I decided, well, let's have a meeting. We'll put the thing together. We'll figure out how to do it. And so my friend Martin Migleretti, who's a great graphic artist, and he made a design, a Light and Hopkins logo. And I sent out press releases into the papers, and it got printed in all the papers. And we had it at a gig that I played with Joe Guitar Hughes, and we had a big jam. It was a Tuesday night gig, so the place was packed with a big jam and everything, So we had this big PR thing going on, and Martin and I got 50 T-shirts made. I had $300 to either get my car out of the shop or get Blues Society T-shirts. I opted to keep my car in the shop, and then the Blues Broad came by from KPFT, came by and picked me up. And that night at Club Matinee, that's where we started the Houston Blues Society.
know Brandon, one of my students, y'all. One of the most profound things that has ever been said to me about this instrument was said yesterday. Sonny Boy and I were in, what's the name of the hall? It's the hall that we were working at yesterday and Friday.
Oh, Eldorado Ball.
Eldorado Bar. We're working with a gentleman by the name of Texas Johnny Brown. Anybody know who that is? I had never met him. And if you could just hand these back. And I'll explain all this later. And we're working with about a group of 10 kids on harmonica, and I realized that I had this guy next to me who's 82 years old, who's been through way more than I have, experience-wise and in his life. And I bet you he plays the harmonica, but I don't know if he does or has. I'm sure he has. He's a guitar player. He's known for his guitar playing as far as I know. And I said, Johnny, what do you want to say to these kids? And in the context of what we were doing, which is playing harmonica and learning from a total beginner standpoint, he looked at the kids, and in a very soft voice, he said, whatever you do, don't get cute with it. And I stopped, and I was like, oh, wow, where's he going with this? And he said, don't get cute with it. And then he says, this little thing comes pre-programmed. Totally pre-programmed to do everything you've ever heard it do. The question is, are you going to put into it what you have to put into it to get out of it what you want to get out of it? But everything's there. Everything you've heard. So 9 out of 10 times, if you're wondering if something's wrong with your harmonica, there's probably not.
I got the blues bug at home where I grew up in a small farm and factory town in northwest Ohio. I picked up harmonica to want to jam with my friends, who one was very bright, played a lot of Neil Young acoustic guitar and things like that. And the other friend, he was a rock and roller. He played like Led Zeppelin and stuff. And he was real into Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and all that. But we always hung around. We were all music freaks. And so I said, well, I want to jam with my friends. So I went to Mind Dust Music in Olyda, Ohio, where they had a very popular record store, and they sold a lot of magazines. And so I was able to go there, get a harmonica right out of the case, and then buy a blues record, and then also buy Living Blues magazine. So I educated myself about blues through Living Blues magazine, and then I would go through the shelves and then see what they had that I saw that interested me. So I pretty much knew where the holy grail for harmonica was right away. It didn't take long to figure that out, because you learn pretty quick.
Let's turn over to the guitar, y'all. Let's everybody lay back a little bit, get the guitar, so break it up a little bit, y'all.
Kind of two schools of thought in playing, you know, keeping cupped up pretty much all the time, or opening your hands, but putting a wall on stuff. And Paul Butterfield is somebody who doesn't open his hands much when he's playing on records. I mean, he's pretty much stays cupped up all the time. It works great. And I played that way originally. I worked hard to get a good, fully cupped up sound, and kind of wondered why Kim Wilson kept flapping his hand around like that when I saw it live, and started trying it myself and found that for me it expands my phrasing. If I can do more things with the same note, I don't have to think of another note to play.
And then I just got into it more. I wanted to come to the big city and play the blues.
Why Houston?
A friend of mine, and I really seriously looked into other places because the economy was getting bad in the Midwest. You could tell the band, they were it was breaking up at the time, it was pretty obvious. And so I was really itching to, and I was 21 years old, I was itching to get out and do something with my life. I was feeling it pretty good, and I'd been playing for 4 or 5 years, and I could play. I wasn't great at improvising or anything like that. Now, when I got to Houston, immediately I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan and the Fabulous Thunderbirds. And you could see Kim Wilson close up. And I also could see Omar and the Howlers. And he was wearing a straw hat and bib overalls back then, but he had Fingers Taylor from Jimmy Buffett's band playing with him all the time. And I'd go see Gary Primage when he was in his band called the Manish Boys. And there was a big roots boom across America, and it hit Houston pretty hard. You could go see the Blasters and Joe Ely doing double bills together, and you'd see Hollywood Fats playing with the Blasters, and T-Birds were really huge. Delbert McClinton was really huge. Stevie Ray Vaughan was breaking out by playing Fitzgerald's, every month. Sometimes I go see Stevie Ray Vaughan on a Tuesday night at Fitzgerald's, and he's just there'd be 5 people in the audience at 12:30 or 1 o'clock at night. I mean, it'd be dead. Town would be dead, He'd be up there taking his guitar and scratching on the floor and doing all kinds of crazy things with it, But you could see these guys close up and get first-hand education. Not to mention you had wonderful touring acts that would play Rockefellers and Fitzgeralds and places like that all the time. but you had a great local scene with Dr. Rocket and the Cold Cuts and different bands like that. Alan Haynes, you could see them all over town at Corky's. And so when I got here, I immediately realized that, you know, I really did die and go to heaven, because there's no way I could ever plan to go in such a great place. You know, to me, the music was everywhere, and not only was it everywhere, it was down to earth and accessible. It wasn't an uptight scene or anything like that, so you could learn and break into the scene. You know, there wasn't any sort of preconditions or anything like that, you know, because everybody was going for it, you know, and people from all over the country had moved to Houston, so it was really an open, accepting music scene, I'd say, by and large.
This amp, for me, seems like about 6 on the bass knob is as far as I go. Let's go for some mid-range here. I'm starting with the knobs just barely turned on, like 1 or 2, and the treble is turned off completely, which I'll get back to.
Bob Jackson.
On this particular amp, it works best with the treble turned off. So I'm not even going to, well, I'll bring it up to demonstrate here. I might use a little bit there then, in this room. And then presence, it adds a certain amount of gain to an amp that you can often get away with. And if you're trying to get better tone at lower volume, that's an important thing there. So hang on a second here. okay to me. That's, you know, the benefit of working on the inside of an amp as opposed to simply retubing it is that I can turn it up that loud and stand that close to it, and it's not trying to bite back at me there.
I was there for the afternoon seminars and had to be elsewhere at night, but you had a heck of a lineup set up for the concert at nighttime.
Yeah, I had asked Greg Iser, who was a protege of Jumpin' Johnny Sansone's in New Orleans. I think he went to college there and got to know Jumpin' Johnny Sansone and took up the harmonica, and that was his mentor for a whole lot of years. But Jumpin' Johnny's an incredible player, incredible chromatic player, but he told me about Greg Iser, so I asked Greg to come down because he had just got back from Spain. But what a monster player. You know, a whole new generation, just an incredible harmonica player, wonderful chromatic player, and, you know, a straight shooting pro to go along with it. And so I had him, and I had Ronnie Schellist, who I met at the 10,000 Harmonicas sponsored by the Pocket Full of Soul people at Minute Maid Park. I got to know him, and I heard him play. Wow, he's a really tasty player. So being it was my second Texas Harmonica Festival, I asked Ronnie Schellist to come down, and then I also set him up with the Blues in Schools and the Houston Blues Society, and we did a really great Blues in Schools at the Eldorado Ballroom. But my main thing is I really wanted to put together a high-quality blues showcase, you know, and something that's up-tempo and modern and fun and hip and everything.
I see some new numbers in there. Yeah!
Plus, we had Texas Johnny Boy or John Moscone play, and what a wonderful harmonica player he is. I mean, what a great all-around musician. And then you talk about Tommy Dardar, who is a Houston treasure. So we had him on the bill. And last year we had the author and Grammy-winning Adam Dassault.
I'm Guy Schwartz, and you're watching Hippies TV. Hippies TV. Hippies TV.
This is basically a shuffle, just really slow. Man, give yourselves a big round of applause. That was really pretty good. Pretty good level. You guys learn anything? I mean, us harmonica camaraderie, you know, if anything else, you know. But we're really trying to help people, you know, get it right and figure it out and stuff like that. You know, of course, you got to keep doing it. You got to keep hearing stuff over and over and over for it to really soak in. I know there's still stuff that I have to keep hearing to be able to soak in.
How did you make your transition from home to the stage?
I was a sound man in my friend's rock band. They played like covers, mainstream covers. And in the process of being a sound man, I was starting to get pretty good on harmonica after a year or two. And so they would bring me up as a guest. And I would play anything from like Ozark Mountain Daredevils, you know, something like this. You know, things like that, where you could almost have a jaw harp with it and stuff. But I'd play If You Want to Get to Heaven by Ozark Mountain Daredevils with the band. Sang a little backups, ran sound. After about 2 years, I was really getting a great experience learning how to play, but you kind of knew that if you wanted to play blues, you weren't going to do it where I came from. You know, I don't really know I hardly knew people that collected blues records like I did. Now, I'd seen Luther Allison when I was 15. They opened for Kansas, or he opened for Kansas. I think he was on Motown Records at the time. So that was the first blues artist I had seen, so I wasn't really ignorant where all the cool stuff was coming from, you know, especially out of Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin and the like. So that's what, I mean, I'd learn how to play that, you know. You know, Sonny Boy Williamson licks and this, that, and the other. And then I just got into it more. I wanted to come to the big city and play the blues.
Alright, does that feel good? Give me a head nod if you feel like this is making sense. Alright. When you're playing, and I'm not going to get into amplified because you guys have a good instructor coming up for amplified harmonica, but it applies to both, especially amplified, but also when I play this style, I want to emphasize I don't want to always be in this world because that is my only tone. How many players have you seen like this? Right? Shoulders are like this. I could probably just go up and blow him over, touch him with my finger, and he's going to fall over. And that is his sound. Rigid. So you got to relax, and you got to just applied tension where it's intentional. You know, like this hand technique, there's a little squeezing. There's stuff going on. So when you play, we're relaxing, but we're being very intentional with these specific things like hand techniques, all right? Good deal. So now you've got this harp in your hand. You don't want to always cup it, and I want to just keep saying that because I think I see it more often than not. You want to go. And then maybe mix it up with a little hand technique or... And you have times when you can alternate. So you're alternating between, depending on what tone you want, and what you want it, what kind of effect you want it to have on the technique you're doing.
Listen, everybody.
Bring bass up too far, it'll kind of muddy up. I mean, and that sometimes you do that to soften the tone when you need it. And it depends, how punchy do you want your bass to be, or how much do you need to soften the overall tone of the amp. And also, the thing about bass feedback, it's kind of this earthquake phenomenon that leaves you wondering if it's something else on stage that's doing it, and you're usually the last one to realize that it's your fault.
Come on, Brad, take them on out, buddy. Sound good, huh? That's where all your common melodies lie. So if you want to play Jingle Bells at Christmas time, or Silent Night, or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, or anything like that for your child or your grandson or anything like that, it's really the best way to start, because it familiarizes you with the holes on the harmonica. You get an opportunity to practice playing individual holes or get used to it, and also you kind of develop your muscle memory. Blues, y'all. What about letting one guy on the bass, Ryan starting on the drums, Holland K on guitar. I'm Sonny Boy Terry. Thank y'all very much. Y'all getting ready for a cheap joint party here tonight, right? I say, hey, yeah. We'll be right back and stick it straight. We got more blues all night long from 1 a.m.
so much.
Hi, I'm Guy Schwartz.
And I'm MArlo Blue.